So this is Onside with me, Joshua. Hello to guys. You're welcome. And today we're going to be talking about the African teams at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And I mean, as you know it, the African teams haven't really lived up to expectation, right? Out of the 10 that qualified for the World Cup, 9 made it to the round of 32, which was good. But out of the 9, only 7 are remaining. 2 got knocked out a few days ago. We have to talk about it. And look at the issues connected to African football at the global stage. It looks like it's a bit confusing to me. You can be very good in the continent or the continental stage. When it gets to the world stage, it's a different story. And this World Cup hasn't been different from previous World Cups as far as the African story is concerned. So we have to look at it. We have to discuss it. Right? But before we do that, guys, I need you to do something for me. Just one thing. Please subscribe to this channel. Subscribe. Turn on post notifications so that anytime I drop a video, you're going to be one of the first to receive it. Let's build a community over here. We're going to talk football, we're going to talk tactics, and we're going to have some fun. So please subscribe. Now let's get into it. 10 African teams made it to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, 9 via automatic slots, and 10, or the 10th, via playoff. So that was DR Congo. We saw how they qualified. They beat Nigeria on penalties. But guys, qualifying for the World Cup is one thing. Being successful and playing well at it is something else. I'll start off from La Côte d'Ivoire because yesterday they disappointed us, losing to Norway by 2-1, having played a very good game. And I watched the game from commentary position and I was asking myself so many questions because, I mean, one can blame MS5 for keeping Amad Diallo on the bench and bringing him in the second half. Because when he brought him in the second half, he got that all-important goal for La Côte d'Ivoire. So, the assumption is that if he started earlier, he could have had more impact in the game than when he was brought from the bench. But you do also remember that in the game against Ecuador at the group stage, La Côte d'Ivoire got that goal from Amad Diallo when he came from the bench. So, going into the mind of MS5, I'm thinking about it as though he sees Amad Diallo as a super substitute. So, when the going gets tough, bring him from the bench to get a goal for you. And that's my kind of player. That is what MS5 could have been thinking. But you see, when you have Yan Diomande, who is valued currently at over £100 million, 100 million euros, I think so. Then you have Bonny. And then you also have Nicolas Pepe. These three should be getting you a goal in the knockout fixture at the FIFA World Cup against Norway in a game where they dominated so much, at least from what I observed. And I mean, I really don't know, but I also want to talk about the mentality of the Ivorians. You know that you're in knockout football. You are playing against a team that has Martin Odegaard, that has Nusa, that has Erling Haaland. And when you get a chance at goal, you decide to be very sloppy and very lackadaisical. So even though Odilon Kosunu and Agbadu really tracked Erling Haaland so well, not giving him so much chance in the penalty box, you saw what it took for Erling Haaland to get that goal. Virtually nothing. Out of nowhere, got that very important goal that helped Norway to qualify. And those are the margins that make the difference in knockout football. You can play all the football and you end up losing the game. So you realize that Norway, they were not in a hurry to possess the ball. They literally let La Côte d'Ivoire get the ball and play a lot of the possession. And at the end of the day, they literally threw it away at the death. So again, mentality. You're going into a game, you know you need to win. Knockout football, your approach has to be different. You need to go and get 1, 2, 3 chances, convert at least 2 of them. That should have been the story we should have been discussing this morning. Not La Côte d'Ivoire playing all the game and literally surrendering when it mattered the most in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the game, when we all knew that they could have held on, probably taking the game into extra time and see what they could do from there. So, of course, La Côte d'Ivoire, this is the end of the road for them. We always need to take cognizance of the fact that knockout football has to go with strategy. The way they played the group stage shouldn't have been the same mentality that they played the knockout game against Norway. It should be different. We saw what they did against Germany. In the game against Germany, they went into the lead. They should have protected that lead and perhaps won the game. But they allowed the Germans to claw back, equalize, and got that winning goal. And that is what we saw, at least something similar yesterday. I was really disappointed that La Côte d'Ivoire is going on. I think a lot of it is down to mentality. Because in terms of coaching, yes, MS5 could have done better. But on the day when you expect your front three to be very clinical and they are not clinical, then I think there should be a problem with the mentality that you go into the game with, especially when you dominated so much of the possession. But let's extend the conversation now to South Africa, because they also got knocked out by Canada, host nation. And I think that's a dynamic that makes this, quite interesting. Because the Canadian team, to me, didn't look like a very stiff opposition to the South Africans. And it reflected in how they played at least the first 45 minutes. We saw South Africa dominated, making so many incursions, but again, they were not clinical in front of the goal. So you had a very tough and resolute Mbukazi doing a lot of the work at the back. But when it gets to the front and you want to see something from the Apolis, you want to see something from Mudau, you want to see something from Mokoena, Teboho Mokoena, it looks like they are lost. And South Africa, yes, they were playing another host nation in Canada. They had already played against Mexico in the first game where they got 2 red cards in the opening game at the FIFA World Cup. But playing against Canada, I expected to see something different. Kill the game in the first half, get 1 goal, get 2 goals. Then in the second half, you can consolidate the lead and then see the game through. But they also got knocked out by Canada. But it's been a different story for Morocco. Because when they played against the Dutch a few days ago, you could tell the mentality was different. The approach was different. Even when they went 1 goal down, the way they kept on playing, the way they increased their intensity, the way they sent the game to the Dutch, it tells you that they had something that they wanted to achieve and they were very committed to it, never giving up and fighting till the end. So you saw that equalizer from Issa Diop after Cody Gakpo got that first goal for Netherlands. Then they sent the game into extra time, continued with the intensity, continued with the pressure, continued with the momentum until they went into the penalty shootout and they got their day, managed to win it. And when you look at Morocco, I think the story is quite clear. The kind of system that they are building with their football and how they have done so continuously over the last few years is what has brought them this far. And when I talk about mentality, it's not built in a day. Sometimes you need to believe in yourself and play the same kind of football you are playing consistently before you can build a certain winning mentality. That is what Morocco has done. So, when they went to the AFCON final just a few months back, you saw the way they played. You saw the kind of mentality they had. You saw how they approached the game, right? And even though they lost that game on the pitch, at the end of the day, one can always make a case for the reason why you'd always see a team like Morocco make it to the top in African football and also at the world stage, because in the last FIFA World Cup, they went all the way to the semi-final. So, is it just a situation of, Morocco and the North Africans really making it this far? Or is there a specific problem that needs to be fixed when it has to do with football from the West Africans and also the South Africans? I don't know, maybe you can drop your comments. What do you think is happening to African football? Because we're going to see DR Congo come up against England later today. And we want to see something different from what we've seen in the games between La Côte d'Ivoire and Norway, and also what transpired in the game between South Africa and Canada. Of course, when you want to compare the two teams, England and DR Congo, they are 2 different teams. And with the kind of pressure that's on Thomas Tuchel to win the FIFA World Cup, he knows that nothing short of a win with a very spectacular performance is expected from him today. But Sebastien Desabre and his team, can they prove that they are the team to be feared in this tournament. Looking at how they even qualified, right? And I love the fact that DR Congo, they went toe-to-toe with Portugal, got a draw against them in their first group game early on. That was a very good way to set the momentum for them in this tournament. And they beat Uzbekistan as well. But you see, for DR Congo, one thing I love about them is that when it has to do with physicality, they have it. So maybe we can get that in the game against England, where some physicality comes in. But the final third and how clinical they can be is where the problem is. And that has been the issue for most of the African teams. So we want to see how clinical they can get in front of goal. You can have all the possession, you can play physical football, you can match your opposition, you can match your opponent. But if you can't put the ball at the back of the net, all you have done is cost 90 and you're just going to return home with nothing. In knockout football, the beauty of the game is not what matters, it's the ability to put the ball at the back of the net that matters. So let's see how that game goes today. It's going to be happening at 4 p.m. So we see how that goes. The other African team in there is Argentina. Is Cape Verde. They're going to play with Argentina. Of course, I really don't expect to see Cape Verde beat Argentina. It's going to be a very tall mountain for them to climb. I don't expect to see Cape Verde matching Argentina and beating them. But I want to see how they play. Their story has been incredible so far. Qualifying for the round of 32 after playing 3 draws. And the performance, super impressive. Debutants at the World Cup for the very first time, playing this way, making it this far, I think is a commendable feat. I want to see how they match up against Argentina. Even if they lose and they put up a very good fight, I will commend them and I would really credit them, because when you're a debutant at the FIFA World Cup, nobody gives you a dog's chance. So Cape Verde, my eyes are going to be on them, and I really want to see a very good performance from them today. We're going to be watching Vuzinha as well. He's the goalkeeper for Cape Verde, making, history and also getting his name in the news. Then we also have Australia and Egypt. I think that game is going to be a very interesting one, because Australia have come into this tournament and they have come in with some, strength in terms of the composition of their squad and how they play their football. Egypt look like they're going to be missing the services of Mohamed Salah because he looks like he's injured. But all in all, I think Egypt should be able to edge past Australia. Of course, again, let's see how that game pans out, because I would want to make the conclusion after that game whether or not the success story for African teams is a North African thing as opposed to West Africa and Central or South Africa. I need to do that kind of comparison and see what happens. Switzerland is also going to play with Algeria, and I think Algeria should have a very good day in that game. And also that game is going to help me to make a conclusion as to whether the success story of African teams is a North African thing as opposed to the West, Central, and South African teams. Then the biggest game is going to be happening on 4th July at dawn, 1:30 GMT, where Ghana comes up against Colombia. We're going to do the conversation of that Ghana-Colombia game maybe tomorrow or tomorrow next, where I break down the game, the fixture. We're going to do a preview and see the chances of Ghana. But of course, so many people are going to be looking forward to that game and how Ghana plays that game, how we approach the game. Because we lost that game against Croatia by 2-1. But in the game against Colombia, it's knockout football. So perhaps Carlos Queiroz may come into that game with a different mindset. We live to see. But yes, what has been your opinion of African teams at the FIFA World Cup? Do you think it's an issue with mentality? Do you think we give too much respect to our opponents in knockout football? Do you think we should be more fearless? And do you also think that we are being disadvantaged in one way or the other? Our refereeing decisions going against us? Do you think we need to adopt a certain dark arts to play knockout football? I genuinely want to know what you think about what we are doing at the knockout stage in the FIFA World Cup. Because the first World Cup I watched was 2006 FIFA World Cup in Germany. And in that tournament, we had Togo was there, Tunisia was there, of course, Ghana was there, Ivory Coast was there, we also had Angola. It was only Ghana that made it so far to the round of 16 and got knocked out by Brazil. All the other African teams got knocked out in the group stage. Then in 2010, of course, Ghana held its flag really high, represented Africa, because out of the 5 African nations that participated in that World Cup in South Africa, it was only It was only Ghana that made it to the quarterfinal. But talking about my preview for the game between DR Congo and England, I think it's going to be a very tough game. I'm going to do prediction very soon, but end-to-end action, let's look at the possible lineups for the two sides in that game. Then I can make some assessment as to how I think that game is going to end. Jordan Pickford, Nico Riley, Maggie, Ezri Konsa, Jude Spence, Elliot Anderson, Declan Rice, Marcus Rashford, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, Harry Kane. This is a difficult English side to break down on any day. Now, let's look at the DR Congo team. Mpazi Nzao in post, Chancellor Mbemba, Axel Twanzebe, Kapuari, Masuaku, Wan Bisaka, Sadiki, Kayembe, Mutusami, then Bukambu and Yohan Wissa leading the line for DR Congo. Maybe they could pick a cue from how Ghana played against England some days ago. Low block, fancy your chances moving forward because you don't want to give Harry Kane so much space. You don't want to give Jude Bellingham so much space. Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, keeping the width for the English team. They could cut in and they have a lot of speed. They could test your goalkeeper throughout the game. They have spaces, how to defend those spaces. That is going to be the tall order that DR Congo will have to climb today in that game. And if they do their things well and try and replicate how Ghana played against England in that low block system, I think they could keep the English at bay for a really long time in this game, causing Thomas Tuchel to scratch his head more to get more ideas on how to win such a game. But this is knockout football. Again, the way you play doesn't matter so much as the goals you score. So even though they would want to defend and prevent England from scoring, they have to have a plan of how to score. I think that's the biggest part of the conversation for Sebastien Desabre. He would have to work really hard with his team to figure out how to get a goal because Yohan Wissa is not the tallest. And when he scored that goal against Portugal with that header, I thought that was very creative. Maybe they can use that as a secret weapon, right? Set pieces. And I think it could work for them. You just need to have a strategy of how you're going to score your goals. So I want to see DR Congo go with that kind of mentality. Maybe they could go with set pieces, right? Not entirely throughout the game, but when you get a chance, you counter-attack or you get a set piece, you need to find a way of converting them, putting the ball at the back of the net. That is what matters most at this point. So, of course, we're going to see Cape Verde and Argentina. That will be that's going to be in 2 days' time. But, of course, the center of attention today is DR Congo and England. Look, I expect that game to stretch a bit. Prediction-wise, I think England will go through. But I want to see how DR Congo approach the game. If it's very similar to what we saw in the game between La Côte d'Ivoire and Norway and the way South Africa played against Canada, then I think we would have a real problem on our hands. And I'll come back here, we'll discuss it. But I expect England to win because, hey, Thomas Tuchel, if he doesn't win, he's literally going to be hanged. And you'd have to die before he gets back to England because nobody is going to, spare him the way he selected his squad, the way he was confident in the players he selected. And with all the current challenges that he's facing, everyone expects him to have a solution, an antidote to get the best out of this English team and to see them go all the way either to the semi-final or to the final of this FIFA World Cup. So they cannot lose this game. But how does DR Congo face this opposition is the most interesting part of the conversation that I want to be having after that game. So let's see how it goes. I predict England to win by 2-1. Maybe Harry Kane getting on the score sheet and perhaps Jude Bellingham gets on the score sheet. But we live to see if it truly pans out the way I'm expecting it. This has been Onside with me, Joshua Hollow. To subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications anytime I drop a video, you're going to be the first to receive it. Until I come your way again, keep up and see you in the next one.